Hi there, and welcome to Career Collective. This is the first of my live streams, and I was keen just to start this because the first one's going to always be the worst, and discussing all things career coaching. But particularly today, I've been working with a couple of clients that have been made redundant and are facing the challenges, I guess, of redundancy and what that means for them personally, professionally, and how to go about discussing it with their peers, their friends, their family. And it is quite an emotional situation to be in. When you're made redundant, particularly if you've been in your role for quite some time, it's really important to take some time for yourself and actually think about it, process it, and get to grips with exactly what is happening to you. And before you start what can be arduous task of actually finding a new job and looking for opportunities that are relevant and meet with your requirements, it's really important to have a bit of a break, have a think about what you've done, what you can bring to the table, what you want to do next. At the moment, the spray and pray approach to job hunting just won't work in pretty much most sectors. The majority of individuals that have had experience of redundancy will more than likely face it again. So if this is your first time being made redundant, your second, your third, each time has its own challenges, but equally opportunities. And the number of people that I work with that have seen it as the kick up the arse that they need to find something that they want to do, or indeed the opportunity to try new things. Now, dependent on your situation, that's financial, personal, etc., you'll have different opportunities open to you. A lot of people will get a package they'll be happy with, particularly individuals that are working sort of mid-management, have been in their organisation for quite some time. They will be probably financially secure for a while, and that will be exactly the environment, I guess, that's conducive to taking some time and actually looking for what you want to do. However, other individuals might not have been in their organisation or employment for as long, so they won't have that pillow, that sort of cushion, I guess, to actually fall back on, and they won't feel like they have the opportunity to have a good think. But take it from me, it is such an important thing. I have spoken to hundreds and hundreds of candidates over the years who've faced redundancy, taken redundancy, whether it be voluntary or indeed forced upon them. And they've all dealt with it differently. And the ones that do best in that situation generally are the people that take a little bit of time, find a little bit perspective, a little bit clarity in terms of what they want to do next, and actually get a job that they want to do as opposed to a job that they have to do. So given the job market just now, and as I said, a spray and pray approach will not work. It's very much what I would call a client-driven or an employer-driven market. There are more people in the market right now than there are jobs, particularly middle management. You will see a lot of organisations that are making redundancies tend to go into that middle management area to cut numbers, and that is generally a budget issue. Those people are earning the most money, cost the most for the organisation, and in terms of productivity, sometimes that is deemed the lowest productivity. However, that is a massive mistake, as we all know. A lot of organisations cut numbers in this area and then bring them back in within 12 months in slightly different guise. So that's a frustration. However, it's a really important thing to start thinking about exactly what that means for you and what you need to do in order to find the right next step. I talk to all my clients about career clarity, and I mean, it's nice. It sounds like a nice idea, but when it comes to redundancy, you will not have that. You will be panicking. You'll be thinking about paying bills. You'll be thinking about what's next for you. You may be considering, I'm too old, I'm too inexperienced, I've not had enough breadth of exposure within my sector, I've not done all the education or certifications that I should have done and had the opportunity to do, and I should have done it. I don't know where to start with my CV. I don't even know how to have the conversation with my co-workers or my peer group. I don't even know how to start that conversation. But the first thing you need to do is start having the conversation with yourself. Whether you're having a conversation with yourself in the shower, whether you're having a conversation with yourself making a cup of tea, you need to start having a conversation almost out loud, because you need to say it out loud, just to yourself initially. This sounds very psychological. It's really not. It is genuinely the first step to actually owning a redundancy situation. And you need to be comfortable enough to talk about redundancy initially with yourself and then with those closest to you. So whether that is co-workers, whether that is your family, friends, etc. And the more people you talk to about it, the more comfortable you get it. And when you're talking about it out loud, and it has to be out loud, you cannot have this conversation in your head. As much as I love speaking to myself in my head, you need to have it out loud. You need to speak about how you feel. You need to be practical. You need to think about next steps. You need to then start thinking about what you enjoyed about your roles, what you've loved doing over the years, what you bring to your jobs. And then that will help you start to form the conversation and make it positive, because initially you are going to hold potentially some anger, some raw emotion, which isn't conducive to great interviews. So starting to talk about this now with other people makes it so much easier for you when you're in your interviews and you're talking about your career history. I think a lot of clients that I'm speaking with just now, a lot of individuals that are facing this situation, they don't realize that when I first speak to them. They don't understand that actually having the conversation out loud can be difficult. If the first time you're talking about your redundancy out loud, out with your immediate family effectively, is an interview situation, you don't know how you're going to feel about that. You don't know how you're going to come across. Your body language will change. Your tone will change. Even the way in which you perceive yourself or want to talk about yourself will change. So it's really, really key that redundancy is something that you consider, you talk about, you share, you go all fluffy to an extent. But if that conversation is starting with your dog on your lap or your kid's gerbil, have the conversation. You need to start somewhere, because unless you start somewhere, it's going to get to the point whereby you are really holding it in, and it becomes a lot more tricky to talk about in interviews or with recruitment consultants. As a recruiter for many years, I have hired across the senior space in predominantly financial services, predominantly the investment sector. And I think what I would say is the number of people that I've spoken to about redundancy, I can put them into three buckets effectively. You've got the individuals who are still very raw, struggle to talk about it, can get quite teary, can get quite angry. They struggle to actually communicate what they've done in their job. They start talking about the things that went wrong. They start talking about the organization they worked for negatively. So that really, those individuals in that bucket, they are really struggling with it. They are still needing to talk about it out loud. Then you've got your individuals that are processing it. They are generally a bit happier. They are generally a little bit panicked is the word I would use. They are just keen to find a job that is a similar level, so they're not going backwards. They are keen to have conversations with organizations. They want to get applications out as quickly as possible. They want to get something sorted, ideally as soon as they finish their existing job or as soon as possible. They don't want any kind of break. They just want to get on with it. They will consider permanent. They will consider fixed term contracts. They will consider day rate contracts. They are even looking at organizations or sectors that they've not worked in necessarily before, but they're open to pretty much anything. And those are individuals that processed it, but they've not fully grasped the opportunity that comes with it. And then your final group are the individuals that have processed it, have decided to build a bit of a plan. They are a little bit calmer. They are a little bit more self-assured. They have an air of understanding in terms of the situation they find themselves in. They are able to articulate what they were doing in their previous roles. They were able to articulate why they left their role. They are able to talk about redundancy without too much emotion. They are able to discuss the opportunities that are available to them, and they're seeing it as an opportunity in terms of that kick up the arse that they potentially needed or wanted to find something new, to find something more fulfilling, to find something that is going to speak to them. And that is the type of person that recruiters can work with more effectively. They're not a liability. When you think of recruitment consultants, they are putting you into the front line to get a job that is effectively going to earn them money. So it's, not to sugarcoat it, that is recruitment. However, what happens is when you build rapport with individuals that you can work with, that you can trust, that you feel comfortable putting in front of your clients, those are the types of individuals that you're going to place as a recruiter. And equally for internal recruiters, they're exactly the same. If you are building up your rapport with internal recruiters, whether it be in person, online, via emails, that is a good start. You are not berating them. You are not stalking them. You are not demanding interviews from them, but you are building rapport and building network and building connection, which ultimately, at the end of the day, as a recruiter and as someone that's worked in the recruitment industry for many, many years, that connection is the most important thing. That's something I'll come on to, obviously, in a different stream in terms of network and using your network. But you won't be able to use your network unless you've processed that feeling yourself. And obviously, I'm talking about redundancy, but to be fair, it could be pretty much any situation whereby you find yourself on the job market and didn't expect it. And that can cover a whole host of different situations and scenarios. However, it is really important that we start to process and understand where we are, what we want to do, and how we're going to get there. That's different for everyone. Sometimes a week is enough. Sometimes a week of your own company is enough. Sometimes you're bored in the house or getting lists from your significant other of housework to do. However, it is really important that you take the time. For some people, it will take a lot longer, and take as long as you can afford to, is my advice. Take as long as you need, so that you can talk about your redundancy with a degree of positivity and opportunity, and you can talk about the situation you find yourself in. You can talk about your feelings. You can talk about how it felt initially, but equally how you feel now. It's so important, because that point is the point at which you're going to find the right job. You're not just going to find a job. Getting clarity is a fair bit down the line from feeling confident enough and self-assured enough and not quite as emotionally raw about the situation. So for me, I just wanted to come on, talk a bit about redundancy, but then obviously take an opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Laura. I have been a recruiter for many years. I have my own consultancy. I work predominantly on retained assignments for organisations, generally within the investment sector, although do work across financial services. I have worked a lot in change management and change transformation, strategic change, and obviously a lot of senior appointments as well. I have dabbled in contract recruitment. I've headed up massive accounts for large financial services organisations, recruited contractors, recruited fixed term, recruited permanent. I've also done a lot of executive search for many organisations across C-suite. I do a lot of work with board directors, non-exec directors as well. So from my point of view, I have worked with lots of individuals at lots of different stages in their career. But what has always stood out for me, and I think this is because I had what I would class as a proper job before recruitment. I worked in a financial services organisation. I tried to climb the corporate ladder as best I could. I was probably a little bit impatient and expected to be running the company by the time I was 24. But then I got heavily involved in recruitment, and I felt that people were massively let down by recruitment agencies. And I kind of, rather than just moaning about it, I then decided to join a recruitment agency, and the rest, they say, is history. I have been working in the recruitment industry for 20 years, and I have been actively working with clients in terms of career coaching for about 18 months now. I have built out a career coaching program. The main part of that, I guess, is a 4-week clarity program, and that gives you 4 weeks to get a bit more career clarity. I will have initial conversations to check it's the right thing for clients and to check that they are ready for it, because not everybody's ready for it, and I will be able to give them advice and let them know what they can do in order to get ready to build out that career clarity. I will then work over a period of 3 months with individuals to help them find jobs. And that is done in a way that has a very clear procedure. I was an analyst to trade, so I am very analytical in my approach, but like process, I like significant steps. I like to be able to tick things off on a list. And I know that sometimes the approach individuals take to applying for jobs and finding a new career or a new opportunity isn't necessarily procedural. But to be honest, it needs to be, because otherwise it does get a bit hectic. I work with a lot of individuals that are not entirely sure what they want to do or where they want to do it. So I can help them gain that confidence and the skills to develop their career in the way that they want. Being a career coach, having had such a lot of experience in recruitment, gives me that advantage of understanding not only how recruitment consultants work, but also direct recruiters and how organisations go about finding the right candidate for the job. I have always worked with businesses that are entirely inclusive. I have rejected opportunities to work with businesses that I believe are not inclusive. Particularly at the senior end of the market, I like to ensure that the clients that I have recruited for in the past are incredibly inclusive. And that for me is such an important thing, because yes, as a recruiter, I could go after the money. I could forget about that, just find them what they want, what they ask for. But I have always been someone that pushes back and ensures that what they're looking for is actually the right thing, as opposed to their bias speaking. I talk a lot about bias in a lot of my coaching as well, and it's important to understand your own bias. That's a whole different live stream. But today I thought it was worthwhile jumping on, having a little bit of a chat around redundancy and the feelings that are around it, and how to find the peace, I guess, internally with regards to your situation, and then how best to go about starting the conversation. So if you find yourself in a situation whereby you are losing your job through whatever means, whether it be redundancy, job loss, cuts, etc., then I think it's really important that you are able to understand where you're at, understand where you want to be, and how long that's going to take you. And the most important advice, and the thing that I'll always tell individuals, is take the time, have that break, find a point at which you can talk about your redundancy without having any kind of feelings of anger, sadness, resent, any of these things, because that will unfortunately present itself at the most inopportune time, whether it be in an interview, your first day at your new job, or in the middle of a really important meeting. And all those things have happened to people I've worked with in the past. So it's really, I do speak from a place of understanding, and I do speak from a place of multitudes of research and conversations with individuals. So I will let you go on with your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that it has been useful.